Hey everyone, this is the Marketing Perspective podcast where we get the latest marketers and the latest experts in the field, in the industry, and we just have a simple conversation about their perspective on everything and everything that's going on in their space. Today we have Danica Jones on, and we're going to have a conversation about really effective team leadership, what makes an effective leader, and really navigating like culture to make where effective performance on other team members and genuinely caring. So she's going to tell us a little about herself, and then we'll dive right into the conversation. Thanks so much for hopping on, Danica.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
My name is Danica Jones. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing at Fabricut. And what Fabricut is in a 30,000-foot flyby is we are a global textile supplier and furnishing supplier to the interior design trade. So we're B2B. And we're really also focused on connecting with the B2C audience as well. We just don't sell directly to them. We're selling to interior designers.
Mhm.
And I run an amazing team of 20 marketing professionals, everything from photographers to graphic designers and content specialists that really help us package everything together for 7 different brands. We've got category businesses, you name it, we probably sell it in the textile trade, and it's really an amazing thing. I've been here for 5 years and absolutely love it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
kind of starting out, um, what do you think? What do you think is required to make an effective team? Like, is it the culture, or is it what do you think really makes it where you have a really cohesive team to make it where you have these effective to make it as effective as possible?
That's a really good question. I personally believe that the culture trickles down from the top. And I believe that a leader needs to have a really solid handle on what their personal values as a leader are and what their cultural values are as a leader in order to understand who's going to play well on a leadership team within their department
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
within the department as an employee. Because I can't imagine having somebody who isn't a culture fit within my department functioning in a productive way for them. It's really like, is it a mutual fit? But you need to really know what you're about before you go having people joining your team, and making sure that that synergy is there.
100%. And where I really see toxic, so there's only one way toxic people can stay in a company is they're good. Okay, so
Yeah,
then you're like you're stuck with someone that is really good about what they do, but they are toxic at the same time. And when I say toxic, I mean it's okay. Like I'm all about critiquing. So like saying, "Hey, Victor, you suck at this, but this is how you can be better." But there's a difference between critiquing and attacking. Like you can say,
yeah,
like if there's genuinely like care about you, they will critique you, but doing it in a proper way to make it where it doesn't come off like as like mean, essentially. And
right.
there's a way to approach that, and when it comes to being toxic, it's very important to really, really care about the actual person and say, hey, like you first of all, you have to have the conversation saying, hey, you got to fix the way you communicate on this side of things. Be open
Mhm.
with them, saying, hey, the way you communicate is very toxic. And usually toxic people are going to respond like "f you" type of scenario. That's how
Yeah,
usually they respond, and then
yeah,
that's how you end up knowing. And and usually they end up staying within like other environments, like corporate environments anyway, because
hmm,
they are effective about what they do. But what people don't realize is that toxicity makes it where everyone else is ineffective. And that's how you have an ineffective team, because
yeah,
people aren't wanting to show up to work. They're more willing to show up late to work because they don't want to be bogged down. They're going to be less efficient in their day to day, and they're not going to be happy. And like
yeah.
with all those factors, yes, that one person might be amazing about what they do, but
Hmm.
the whole team is really decreasing their effective, making it where you are making less money.
Yeah.
That is the big point. That is
Yeah.
the huge thing that
It's
you yeah,
insane that bottom line and the way that it affects the bottom line is
yeah,
incredible. And I think it's something that a lot of businesses forget. As much as you think you don't forget the bottom line on every level, it's really clear to me that a lot of businesses these days do by tolerating toxic people within the
yep,
company.
yep,
It's amazing. I have seen so many times when people have literally, good people, have walked away from the company and they will cite one common person over and over and over again. And
mhm,
that person doesn't leave because they are a high performer.
yep,
Um, as far as my team goes, I'm very protective of who I decide to have join the team.
yeah,
And we're very protective of the culture that we've grown within the team. But I've throughout my career, I've experienced a lot of these situations where a toxic person, even if they don't even work in the same department as you, has this effect where it infects the rest of the group. And it's
yeah,
amazing how like one person affecting another person has this domino effect that just
yeah,
continues to like bleed out, and it spreads like a virus throughout the company, and it really does impact that productivity. I mean, I know people that say, "Ugh, I don't want to go to work today because I have to deal with so and so," and
mhm,
it's so intolerable. And thinking about going into work with that kind of mindset, how somebody feels when they're sitting at their desk and that person walks by, and it feels like it's one of those soul suck experiences that
yep,
nobody should have to go through.
yeah, and it makes it where you end up like the good people end up leaving, and then you start like developing more
Yeah,
toxic people, and
yeah,
it's not a good work environment. It makes people unhappy, and
yeah.
they never end up being worth it. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. You have to think about the payoff. Like, maybe a person's a high performer and they do something great, but is it really worth dealing with that person, or could you find somebody else, or is there somebody within the company that could be promoted to take on certain things? Or
yeah,
I think people are scared to lose that high performer so much that they forget that there might be people waiting in the wings, or that there's probably somebody who's a better culture fit coming in from the outside.
mhm,
But either way, it's strange to me the thrall that a toxic person can have on leadership. And I think it's easy to fall prey to the toxicity as a leader.
mhm,
If somebody on your own team is behaving in that kind of way, it has that kind of effect where you find yourself adopting some of that behavior because you work together closely, and
mhm,
some of that behavior rubs off on you. So the positive behavior rubs off on you too, but
yeah,
it's hard to get rid of it once it starts. And I
yeah,
think that's the thing that people need to keep in mind, that once the toxicity is there, getting rid of it is like getting rid of fleas.
yeah,
It'll come back once in a while.
mhm,
It'll show up out of nowhere when you think it's gone, and you have to actively, as a leader and as a team member, be proactive about preventing it, because you cannot just step back and act like it's going to just stay away. It does tend to kind of have those fleas that come back once in a while, and you have to really make it a habit to act against it, and make sure that it doesn't impact you.
and like we in toxic people thrive in environments that only care about financials. So, like, if it really if they, it's like for example the Amazons of the world where they only care about how did you directly increase the profit of the company, it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with actually caring about the person. And like it's so like opposite though. The more you care about the person, the more they're end up like working harder for you. Because as a
Yeah.
leader, my job, I have two jobs. My job is to make sure everyone's communicating and that they enjoy their job they enjoy their job on a daily basis. If I do those
Hmm.
two things, I am doing my job because
Yeah.
when they enjoy their job, they're going to be motivated to show up to work.
Yeah.
they're gonna be happy to do all these things. In order to
Yeah.
make that happen, I have to enforce my culture. I have to
Hmm.
say, like, hey, like, and really take that to a new level because that's what's going to make the difference. It really will.
Yeah, it does. I wrote about this not too long ago on Medium. I'm a very rare writer.
Mhm.
It's rare that I do it,
Yeah.
but when I do, it usually has great purpose behind it. And one of the things that I was talking about, it was about what makes a bad manager, not what makes a good manager. And the thing is that it came out of hearing so many people talking about their toxic work environments and their toxic managers. And I kept thinking about, like, okay, well, what do I do day to day? Like, I'm not a perfect manager, but what do I do day to day to try to do my best to be the kind of manager I'd want to have? And one of the things was just like taking inventory of my cultural values and like what I want to convey as a leader and what I want to convey to my team as a teammate. And to proactively review that, like if there's a behavior that comes up, okay, is this in line with my cultural values? Is this decision I'm about to make in line with the values that I tell people that I live by? Because if it's not, then I really need to rethink whether or not that's the right approach.
Mhm.
And then if I see teammates that are doing something, I have to think, okay, well, is this decision they're making in the best interest of our culture and of our
Yeah.
business and going to really benefit us in the long run or in the short run?
Yeah.
And it's something you really do have to be conscious of constantly. I always kind of laugh that mindfulness is a hippie term, but it really does apply here. Like you do have to stay on top of it, and you have to be mindful when you communicate. You have to be mindful when you're thinking about things day to day, and it can't just kind of be backburnered. Like culture can't be backburnered.
There's a reason why this isn't a conversation very often, because it is so difficult to do. It
Yeah,
like for me, I genuinely care. Like I genuinely care about the person, like regardless of where they go, and that's a rare attribute because it's hard. It is hard. Like for me, it's easy, but for most people, it's hard because you have to take a whole other level rather than just thinking about your own like thing. You
yeah,
have to understand people dynamics. Some people don't click with other people, understanding certain situations that they're in, and
yeah,
really taking that and understanding the people dynamics and putting them together to make an effective, and understanding that you have to dive into how that person thinks, what how that where they can be effective with other particular people. And most people
right,
don't think that way because they don't care. Like they just like
yeah,
they're in environments where they say they don't care about the other person, but that's what makes the leader. Like that like where you care about the other person genuinely and
yeah.
really just trying to make it where they're in the best environment possible. So
And I
yeah,
can't like I can't imagine. To me, it's so weird. People have always asked me like, "What's your career path? How did you decide you wanted to be a manager? Like, why a manager? Why not a specialist? Or,
yeah,
why not stay in a more specific role where you don't have to manage people? Maybe you manage processes." And the thing is, like, I've always been really service oriented as a person,
yeah,
and I'm really interested in helping people get where they want to go. I consider myself more of like a bass player than a front man.
yeah.
And I can't imagine volunteering or saying yes to a leadership role and approaching it in a way that involves not caring about people. Like
Hmm.
every single person on my team, I know who they are, I know what they believe, I know where they envision themselves in 5 years, I know what their hopes and dreams are.
Yeah.
I pay attention to their mood each day. I think about, are they happy when they go home from a day at work? Are they unhappy? Is there anything that I can do to change that? And I can't imagine losing the humanity that leadership requires, because it really does. I mean, it's rewarding as a manager to see people and lift people up and watch them do what they do best and see them
Mhm.
grow in those roles.
Yeah.
So I feel like you're kind of depriving yourself of like that joy of
Yeah.
like there is no selfless altruism, but the thing is like doing those good things and helping lift people up feels amazing as a leader. So why wouldn't you want to do that?
it makes the job more fulfilling. It really does. Like, and also it dives into not trying to become a perfectionist. Like a lot of leaders will say, "Oh, I can do that better than that like I'm just going to do it real fast." And like understanding that as a a leader, I know that I suck at most things. Like I like graphic design, everything else, but I understanding that, hey, this person, this employee that I have, they will do a better job than I will. And it takes
Yeah,
some humility there, saying, okay, I suck at this. They're good at this. I'm going to give them that. And
yeah,
like understanding your weaknesses and then building that out within other people and then really pushing that work to them rather than
yeah,
saying, oh my gosh, I need to do this. Oh my gosh, I need to do this. And thinking that it has to be perfect. That's the problem. It's not you not everything is going to be perfect and you have to be open to new suggestions. And I
yeah,
literally what I do with employees, like in order to hire an employee, they have to give me one thing I'm doing wrong. And if they tell me one thing I'm doing wrong, that way I know what the job is and that they know the process and they know what they're talking about. And then B, that way they're going to constantly optimize the process that's happening. And so
yeah,
that way they're not yes men. Like you don't want those
yeah,
people or yes
yeah,
people saying like, yes, Victor, I'll do that. Yes, Victor, I'll do that. Yes. Like, no, tell me what
yeah,
I'm doing wrong. Let's fix it.
yeah.
And that's been my
Yeah.
philosophy.
I love people that stop me and question like why I'm thinking a certain way,
Yeah.
or get me to stop and rethink my approach or my opinion about stuff. I love being pleasantly surprised or challenged or forced to think from a new perspective.
Hmm.
I think that that's kind of like the characteristic of lifelong learners mostly. Like they're
Yeah.
really open to the idea of learning new things and changing and seeing a new perspective. But I think that that's like a huge thing. You need to have people that aren't afraid to challenge you,
Hmm.
or to critique things and say, hey, I actually wouldn't do it that way. I'd do it this other way. And I think that like a good manager should have like a deep understanding of each different role that a team member plays
Yes.
as part of the whole. But I would never expect a manager to be an expert in every single one of
Yep.
those areas. Do I have a working knowledge of every different area? Yeah, actually, I do.
That's amazing.
Do I consider myself an expert? Absolutely not. Would
Hmm.
I step in for my art director? Never. Would I step in for my project manager? I'd be insane to try. Um, those people know what they're doing. I
Yeah.
have an understanding and respect for what they do, but my
Mhm.
job is to step back and let them fly. My job is not
Yeah.
to hold them down and put my thumbprint on everything because I want to say that I put my thumbprint on it.
Your job is to trust other
Yes.
people and let them
Yeah.
like have the faith in them that they'll do it. And they'll do
Yeah,
it
the
right.
trust part's that's really important. I see a lot of managers that micromanage, and at the end of the day, if you really dig into like why they're
Yeah.
micromanaging, there's an insecurity at the root. I'm not a therapist,
Yeah.
but it usually comes from this place of insecurity, this fear that if something goes wrong, it'll be the fault of the manager. And
Yeah.
and I mean, in a way it is, but why is it the fault of the manager? Or sometimes things
Yeah.
just don't go right. You're experimenting
Mhm.
and it is what it is. But that insecurity leads to that micromanagement, and it
Mhm.
prevents people from doing what could become a really successful experiment, or something that really is in the best interest of the company. And
Mhm.
it's it's a shame because you have to let go and trust people. And there are times when I'm like, I'm not sure this is the right approach, but I'm going to trust that my team knows what they're doing, even if it's not my taste or it's not something that I think I would have made a decision about on my own. It's like you still have to step back and say, I hired these people for a reason. They're
Yeah.
on my team for a reason. Why did I hire them? Oh yeah, it's because they're really good at their job. I should probably let them do their job and step back.
And a lot of people, a lot of businesses now, they create environments for success, but very few create environments for failure. We're in marketing. We know how much it takes to test and test and
Yeah,
test and fail and fail and fail. And a
yeah,
lot of businesses don't have that environment to fail, to make
right.
mistakes. And I say, okay, you made a mistake. Great. That's fine. It's okay. It's okay, first of all. And then giving them security, saying, just don't make the mistake, get up, go again, let's do it. And doing that
Yeah,
3 different times and saying, yes, you made a mistake, accepting yourself, saying, hey, it's okay if other people make mistakes, and just running with it. Because in the marketing space, it's moving so fast that is actually impossible not to make mistakes. If you're not making mistakes,
yeah,
you're behind actually. So it's
yeah. No,
important.
I think there definitely needs to be an environment where mistakes are okay
Yeah.
and that it's accepted as part of the process, especially in marketing. Like,
Yeah.
people have asked me, should I go major in marketing for my college, for a college education? I'm like, cool. Well, when you walk out after 4 years, everything that you've learned for the most part is going to change.
Yep.
And it's going to change every single month after that. And it's
Yep.
going to change every week after that. And it changes so rapidly that you have to be comfortable with failure, and you have to also be comfortable with the thing that I call burning dollars. Like, you will burn money. And it's the first brutal thing that you do as a marketer is like, you go in and you think you have this plan and you get money and you are confident it's going to succeed, and then you burn money and you go, oh my god, I just burned a bunch of money. And sometimes the company's like, okay, we expected to burn some money. And other times they're like, why did that $10,000 just go right down the drain? You need to explain, because they don't have a leader that understands the changing nature of things, the
Yeah.
experimental nature of things. Not to say that you should go burning money all the time, but
Yeah.
it's part of the process. So you have to accept that that failure is going to be there, and you have to be able to take it and learn from it, and teach your team, and your team teach you what you need to do moving forward. And also, I don't know any manager that is error proof. I have no idea. I read something today about that, about managers getting angry about mistakes. And I was like, what kind of person does that when they walk around making mistakes all the time? Like, I make mistakes on a daily basis,
Yeah.
and I can't get angry at anyone else if I'm the one that's walking around making some mistakes here and there too.
Yeah, and luckily I have an environment where I genuinely care about the person, so they're, like, super nervous about messing up, so that, like, that way they don't, like, let me down and things like that. So I give them the security, like, because I don't want them to think, "Oh my gosh, I messed up. Hopefully Victor doesn't get angry at me." I don't want
Right.
them, like, I don't need to re-criticize them and, like, saying, "You messed up." I don't need to, like, push it harder. Like,
Right.
they didn't do it on purpose. They're
Yeah.
criticizing themselves already. I don't need to like, "Ah!" Like, I don't need to
Yeah.
re-criticize them more for it. I know they're
No,
feeling.
and I mean,
Yeah.
when you have good people on your team, they're their own hardest critics. You don't need to be
Yeah.
adding to the pile of self critique that happens. I have amazing people on my team, and I'm always like, why are you beating yourself up over that? It's a tiny, like, oh, I wish I could have done this, or I wish I had been able to do this differently. Or you have a stakeholder that wants you to do something a certain way, and the person's like, man, if I could have just done it the way that I envisioned it, it would have been perfect. And you have to just kind of encourage them to, you know, let it go and not be so harsh on themselves, but you don't add to the fire.
Yeah, yeah, and it's about giving them security, letting know that they're safe, and so that way they're always in a happy environment. If they're constantly
Yeah,
worried about their jobs, that's gonna make them very ineffective. If they're always worried and looking behind their back, like, I'm saying,
yeah,
no, like, if you enjoy your job, you're good. Like, you will, like,
yeah,
everything takes care of itself. So you're gonna work hard, you're gonna learn, you're gonna be trying new things and everything else. So I always
yeah,
try to enforce that, and make sure everything it goes good there because that's really important to me.
yeah, yeah. And it's amazing. Like, there is, I mean, your health and wellness is such a huge part of how
Oh
you
yeah,
And to be in a position where you're constantly worried about your job, about your stability, about somebody breathing down your neck, like the amount of stress that you're putting on your body
Oh yeah.
being put in that kind of environment is so unhealthy. And low performers take sick days a lot more. They tend to, if they're taking vacation days, they're actually taking them just to mentally disconnect a little bit from the environment they're in, or it's like you said, they show up late maybe more, or
Mhm.
they're just not giving it their all because they're not like physically able to, or they're not mentally able
Mhm.
to. And it's such a shame because there are people that are truly high performers or high potential people that are impacted wellness wise, that just like they wither in an environment. It really is a matter of just culture
Mhm.
and providing the right kind of leadership and support for people.
Mhm. And Simon Sinek said this the best way, and it didn't really. I've always enforced culture, but I never really heard it in this particular way. He basically said that there was a person that worked in a coffee shop and a person that worked in a store. Okay, and it's the same person. He works in two different places. In the coffee shop, he had managers that asked, "How are you doing?" and they genuinely cared about him, and he was excited to go to work every day, and he was an extremely high performer, and he always made sure to get the order right. But then at the store, like they just make sure he's doing his job, and then they just make sure he's doing his job, and he doesn't care about anything. He literally all he really is show up to work. He just keeps his head low and does not care about anything. Same
Yeah,
person, height like it's the same exact person, but the managers made a certain environment that changed the way they perceive things and the way
yeah,
they think. So you could have a unbelievably high performing person, but in a toxic environment or in a non caring environment, they're low performers. So
yeah,
it's the
absolutely.
environment. It
It,
is the
it's the
environment that is
environment.
the variable to success.
Yeah, it's definitely the environment, and I don't know any strong optimist that can withstand a certain level of toxicity. There's a point at which even the strongest person can
Hmm.
crumble. And toxic people are pretty dangerous. You've got a lot of like the textbook narcissist types,
Hmm.
people that will continue chipping away at you and chip and chip and chip until there's nothing left.
Oh yeah.
So even the strongest, most amazing, positive people that I know, when in a toxic environment, you can watch them start to wither, and it's so sad to see that happen. I know so many really good people that are at different companies that just are falling under toxic culture, and it's like it's not just the company itself. It's like on a macro level, America has a toxic culture problem.
Yep.
And I hate that for our work culture because really, when I go to work, I really enjoy what I do. We have challenges, we have
Hmm.
challenging
Yeah.
stakeholders, we have situations that aren't easy to go through. But I love my team and I love what
Hmm.
I do. And I go home feeling really good about the work that I put in each day. Even when it's a rough day, it's still like you go home and you say, "Yes, I'm doing what I want to do." And there's a lot of people that just feel completely underappreciated and unacknowledged. Um, and
Hmm.
I remember this really pivotal point for me as a leader, when I was working as a marketing manager at a startup, and the CEO was very intellectual but very cold.
Hmm.
And I was his direct report, and I never heard from him. How are you doing? How are things going? Tell me a little bit about what's going on in your area. How are you as a person? And I just never felt like he thought I was doing anything good, because I never heard anything from him at all. It was very clinical. And one day he brought me into his office and he goes, "I just wanted to let you know that we really appreciate what you're doing, and you're doing a really wonderful job, and we're going to give you a raise." And I walked out and just started crying because it was the first time in a couple years that I had heard
Wow.
somebody hey, you're doing a good job, and we acknowledge that. And it wasn't even the money. It was literally just that he had said, hey, you're doing a great job, and we really appreciate you. And I was like, finally, somebody said something. I thought that these people were going to fire me at some point because nobody.
I was like, oh crap! He went from being almost being fired, like you think you'd be fired. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, thank you.
yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, you like think backwards to
yeah.
what kind of mindset I had to have been in leading up to that point where I was so shocked by it and so overcome by it that I broke down. Like, that's the level of stress that was on my mind every single
Wow,
day.
that's
And not,
crazy.
yeah, like you have no idea if somebody appreciates you, if they care what
Mhm.
you do, if you're making a difference.
Yeah.
Maybe you know your metrics, but they don't know your metrics, and you're just kind of doing your best and hoping that you're going to survive. But that's not a way. That's not a way to operate, and it's
Mhm.
definitely not healthy for people, and it definitely doesn't bring out the best in people at all.
Appreciation is one of the most important things to communicate. Like it's super fascinating. Within my company, like I work with such a fast moving environment, but
Right.
if you ask most of my employees, are you stressed? And they would say, no, I'm not stressed. But
Right.
we are going at lightning speed. But it's that balance between the two. But the reason why they're not stressed, first, they appreciate, they see what they like what they do, first of all. But
Mhm.
I do it in a way that makes it where they I appreciate what they do. So like I basically scale out videos. That's what I do. Is that's how I communicate through videos. And I'll say like, here's what we need to do. Make these changes. This A, B, and C, A, B, C, D, and E, and we need to do this, and this, and this. I need it by Friday. Thank you so much. I love you. You're amazing. And then like literally, that is what a video will sound like. So they go, wow, Victor is like working crazy fast. I need to work crazy fast like Victor,
Right.
and like and I also throw in the appreciation. I tell one of my employees I love them every day. Like that is the culture that I create,
Yeah.
and I'm so appreciative about everything they do, no matter where it is. It's because I genuinely care about them. Like I
Yeah.
don't care if they leave the company or anything else like that. Like I genuinely care to excel them as a person so that when they do leave, they'll be in a better position because it's all about the relationship. That's what I care about. One of my
Yeah.
really good employees was leaving the company, and I sent her a video. I was like a 10-minute video saying I'm gonna miss you so much. Thank you for everything you do. Like you did this and this and this, and you helped like me make these decisions. Like thank you so much. And like I just want to let you to know if you ever want to come back, we will always have a position for you. And like she didn't end up leaving. Like literally, she was like Victor, thank you so much. Like I because I could have like in a normal situation, people would have said like "screw you," like "ah,"
Right.
like everything else. But I was like,
Right.
no, thank you, like thank you for everything you've done. And she was like, Victor,
Yeah.
I couldn't leave after that. Like I couldn't do it. I was like, well, that's awesome. But like
Yeah.
I
It's
genuinely care
great.
about them. Yeah,
It's really important to care about the human being behind the role.
yeah.
Um, like I've seen and heard of companies where if you decide to move on to another thing outside the company, it's like you're excommunicated and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
You're dead to that group. And I can't imagine that. Like even situations where I've had to um, end the relationship with an employee who just wasn't a fit for my team or for
Mhm.
that particular role.
Yeah.
I've always like said, okay, well, what was this person really good at so that I can give them a referral and say like, this person excels at these specific areas so that I
Yeah.
can give them the best shot to find something moving forward. Or, I had a situation where somebody just wasn't a fit for my team and I had to let them go, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
I was like, why aren't you freelancing? Why aren't you going out on your own and doing content writing? Because this is the area that you really excel in. And you could easily find clients. Like I have people that come to me asking about, can you do this? Can you do this for marketing? And I don't freelance anymore. So I have people that I have to pass it on to. And I was like, I could give you 3 clients right now.
Hmm.
and this is the area that you do well in. You're not a fit here, but you're definitely going to be a fit in this kind of area. And they're doing wonderful now. Like I was thrilled to see that they were able to actually go and strike it out on their own and do an amazing job at it.
Yeah.
But you want to hope the best for everybody,
Hmm.
regardless of whether you're part of their life or not.
Yeah.
And they don't owe you anything.
Yeah.
That's the thing is like I owe my team a lot.
Yeah.
Like they're amazing. The things that they do every day are incredible. It's world class work, absolutely top caliber. But they don't owe me anything. If they want to go off and find something that's better, I want them to do that. I want them to feel that they're appreciated and valued and treasured enough here
Hmm.
that they stay. So, it's if they go, I understand, but if they stay, then I know I'm doing something right for them.
Yeah, I am a direct believer that expectations lead to unhappiness. Direct
Yeah,
believer. Like say, I expect you to stay here. I expect you to do that. Like, I
yeah,
really do think expectations of like that people owe you anything, or like when I give value to other people, I literally don't care if anything like happens after that. I just want to give you as much value as humanly possible, and then because I know within like 20 years that maybe something might happen. Like I at the end of the day, no one owes me anything. I'm just gonna give you as much value as possible, and if nothing happens after that, that's 100% fine. It's okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just one of those things that you kind of have to. I don't know. I feel like it's some people are naturally really good at understanding that the world doesn't owe you anything,
Yeah.
and not to have high expectations. I I do have high standards for the work that we put together
Yeah.
and for the work that anybody puts
Hmm.
together when we work together. But I also believe that some of my approach has fared me well in the sense that I actually keep my bar of expectation really low. Like I have high standards, but my bar of expectation in different areas that are not related to the execution of work specifically, like just people expectations, is usually lower than I think a lot of people expect it to be.
Yeah.
And it's amazing though because I'm always really pleasantly surprised by what I discover about people in the process. Like if I'm let down, okay, well, I wasn't expecting to have my expectations, exceeded beyond my wildest dreams. But
Yeah.
at the same time, you do need to maintain some kind of standard of like,
Yeah.
I want this to happen and I want it to be at this quality. But,
It-
expecting a specific outcome is kind of crazy because you never know like what little algorithms are coming together and how that's going to impact the future, or what can bump into something and set something off on a completely different course, and assuming that you can see the future and you need it to happen a certain way is just absolutely insane. You have to be flexible.
Exactly. And but the thing is, if they enjoy their job, they are going to try their absolute best every time. They're not going to
Yeah,
just like slap some crap together. They're going to
yeah,
genuinely try and do their best. And yes, you can send critiques all the time of saying, "Hey, let's change this and this and this." But most likely they're going to try their best if they actually enjoy what they do on a daily basis
yeah,
and they care about you, you care about them type of thing. They're going to try their best and saying, "Hey, like, hey, let's restart. Like, this wasn't what I was expecting. Let's try this and let's see what this how this looks." And it's
yeah,
okay to say like start over and things like that, but just do it in a nice way, like saying, "Hey, this sucks, but here's how we can make it better. Let's try it next time and let's see what we can do there." And rather than
yeah,
just being toxic and saying it sucks, do better next. Like you need to like do it in a nice way. But as you critique
yeah.
in a nice way, it ends up being okay. Like it's a way to
Yeah,
approach it.
I think, one of the things that I see is that a lot of people really struggle with articulating the thing that they do or do not like about something, and
Yeah.
it makes it really hard to deliver a critique in a way that's really constructive.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, what's really important is if I feel like somebody is coming at one of my employees in a way that feels non constructive or like not
Yeah.
helpful in a
True.
way, I like to tell them, like, hey, What would be really helpful is if we understand what you do like about this particular thing and specific aspects of what you do not like. I need objective information and even some subjective information that just gives me a sense of what you're looking at and how you're looking at it so
Yeah.
that we can shape what we need to do moving forward. But just saying you hate it is not going to help us do a good job changing it.
Oh
So we
yeah.
really do, we work to extract a lot of information out of people that I think, most people struggle with that. Because, I mean, you don't go to art school and learn how to critique stuff unless you go to art school on purpose. And, I went to art school. I understand how to do a good critique, like a formal critique, and break it down.
Yeah.
So, but I forget a lot of the times that other people don't necessarily have that kind of like critical training to
Mhm.
say, okay, let me pick this apart and let me really dissect it in an objective way so that we
Yeah.
can understand each component of it. So I have to kind of, step back for a second, go, okay, this person is not familiar with how to do like a totally formal critique of something.
Yeah.
So what do we need to do to extract that information from them so that my employee is not sitting there going, wow, I suck. That's terrible.
And I think it is so important. I think this is the most important thing that most managers should be doing right now. They need context of what the person is doing to actually give that critique. The problem is for example, video editing. Let's just use that one for example. So if you take the 10 minutes and learn video editing, like the components and elements of what makes a good video, you can like rather than someone sending a video and saying, "Hey, this sucks." Like redo it. I don't like it. But now that you have context of how video editing works, you know that there's text overlays. You know that there's transitions. You know about the stock footage in the background. Now you have context of everything
Right,
going on and what makes a good video. Now you can say, rather than the whole video sucks, saying, "Oh, with this text, let's in the text overlay, let's do this instead." Or I don't
right.
like this transition here. Let's change that. And now you can start critiquing and become effective. Because when
Yeah,
you don't have context, you become an ineffective communicator, meaning that
yeah,
you're just going to say, I don't like this. And it's
yeah,
like, that's an ineffective way to communicate. Take the
yeah,
10 minutes to learn what the person is doing, whatever that is. So that way you like that 10 minutes will save you hundreds and thousands of hours of miscommunication. So rather than saying like you understanding the elements, you can get down to saying this exact text overlay, make this specific color, and then that will save you hours and hundreds of hours of miscommunications that are going to happen down the line, and it will completely change the way you do it. I could not be more bullish on that.
yeah. No, I agree with you completely. I think that that's kind of where I say like a manager should probably have like a really good working knowledge of everybody's different roles and
Yeah,
like the things that go into it. There's a lot of times when I communicate with people outside of our department or that I've communicated with people in the past about where it's very clear that they don't know how the content comes together and all the different bits and pieces that someone's thinking about when they're producing content, whether it's a photograph or if it's a piece of blog writing, like
yeah,
whatever it is. They're not understanding like all the components. They just kind of see the end result, and it's almost like it
yeah.
just kind of poof comes out of nowhere, and they're like, "Well, I don't like this." Well, why don't you like it? Well, I don't know. Well, it's accomplishing these goals. Is
Yeah.
it not doing that for you? Like,
Mhm.
and you end up getting stuck in this back and forth of like, well, can you tweak it a little bit this way? Well, why do you want
Yeah.
to tweak it this way? And then you do 80 revisions instead of two
Yeah.
revisions, and it's just such a waste of time and money. And it really does come down to that communication and just knowing a little bit, even a tiny, tiny bit, goes a long way.
Yeah, and just take the 10 minutes to understand.
Yeah,
Like within all the employees, we have 75 employees within the company, and like with building out that team, and I know I have context of what every single person is doing. Like I might not be
right.
able to do every single thing what that person is doing, but I have context. I say, be like, hey, teach me. Like I literally have them on the interview. I say, teach me how this works, And if they're able to
Right.
teach me and communicate that effectively, and now I have context of what they do. I know they have context about what they do.
Yep.
And now I understand how to communicate it so that when I say like, hey, for Google Tag Manager, we need these containers set up. And then they go, okay, Victor, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
So that way we become the intermediate. So like when a client says, hey, I need this and this and this done, rather like or like saying rather than saying, hey, our ads are not good, we need to fix that. We are able to say, okay, we need to optimize for these particular keywords for these
Yep.
campaigns. And I have context. I have
Yeah.
context of what's going
Yeah.
on. So I'm able to communicate that. So it's
Yeah.
so important. So,
It
so
really is. It really is. And I think that I cannot stress enough the importance of continuing to learn about your industry, like as a
yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
because I think it's really easy for managers to get pulled out of the weeds, which I get. Like a CMO is going to be very detached from something that a content specialist does,
True.
but by being pulled out of the weeds, you miss a lot of the information that people are learning day to day because they have to keep up with their particular role and how it's evolving every single second in marketing. And you do have to take that time to actually proactively learn. Like, I can't imagine not going through recertification for things or getting familiar with software tools that I might not use day to day, but I should know why it goes, why it isn't part of my tool set and why it could be part of somebody else's tool set,
Yeah.
or why an algorithm is doing something differently, or how things are
Mhm.
functioning in terms of the way that Google's perceiving content and how that all comes together. It's something that you do have to continue to proactively learn about. You can't let your knowledge get outdated, because you're outdated like every week in marketing, every single week.
Oh
It's
yeah.
amazing.
I know exactly what that's like.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I know exactly what that's like. And is there, before we wrap it all up, is there anything that you wanted to make sure to emphasize, um, that you also another particular scenario with ineffective communication that you think that is important that a lot of people aren't doing or you're not seeing that should be doing? Is there any recommendations there?
So I think one of the things that I've learned a lot from my project manager, because I consider her like a god tier project manager,
Hmm.
is that the communication and even just like reading about projects that are in the project management system
Yeah.
is really important. She made a comment to me the other day, um, that was kind of, about the detachment that somebody had from their own team, and the lack of awareness that a manager had, within a certain kind of project that we had going on. And I was like, wow, I really need to check myself. I really need to check myself and make sure that I'm actively reading about each of these projects and each of these tasks, because even if I'm not the approver on it, because I don't need to be the approver, I want to be able to be that manager that actually gets that phone call and says, yeah, I know exactly what's going on, and I know where we're at on it. I don't have to be the project manager, and I would not want to be the project manager. She's far better than I could ever dream of. But, I think taking the time to have that awareness about even the little details makes a huge difference as
Oh
far
yeah.
as how your team perceives you and how you're able to understand like where things are at. Even if you're not deep in the weeds, you still feel like you have a little bit of a hold in the weeds that makes you feel connected to the team and helps you feel a little more empathy for the process they're going through to get things pulled together.
Mhm.
And let's see, like, I'm trying to think of like important wisdom to pass along. um Stay humble, seriously. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's like, the Jeff Bezoses of the world,
Yeah.
flying on the rocket ship without thinking about all the employees that are getting injuries and stuff in the warehouse, and working to make that machine run.
Yeah.
It's easy to get out of touch when you're a leader of a company,
Yeah.
and you really, really need to not get disconnected. You really need to stay connected to the humanity of it and the humanity of just being with people and caring about people. Like, you nailed it. Caring about the human and
Yep.
the people that you work with, whether or not they're working with you, like it's a privilege that my team works with me. It is an
That's
absolute
amazing.
honor to work with people every day. Like I'm blown away constantly by how good they are at their jobs.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say is hire smarter than you.
Oh
Period.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's critical. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like hire smarter than you and know that there's no instability in hiring smarter than you because your hiring
Yeah.
specialist is the manager. And I
Yeah.
think it's amazing to hire somebody that's smarter than you that can give you a new perspective and keep you in check and
Mhm.
show you new ways to do things. So I think that humility thing is a huge part of what makes really
Mhm.
good leadership happen.
And yeah, that's why I require them to tell me one thing I'm doing wrong. Like
Yeah,
that's a huge thing. I don't want yes people. Like
yeah,
I can get people to set things up for me. That's not a
right,
problem. I want people to say, "Hey, Victor, no, like this is not how we should set it up. We should do A, B, and
right.
C instead." And
Yeah,
that is the person I want on my team. I want to say
exactly.
yes, I like that person saying, "No, Victor, I shouldn't do that way. I need to do it this way." That is the
Yeah.
person I want on my team.
Yep, I agree. I agree completely. I think that's really important, and it takes a bold person to do that, and it takes a great amount of courage to do that.
It
And those
does.
are characteristics that I really admire and look for in my team.
Mhm.
So I think that that's something that people really need to keep an eye out for because those are the people that carry you forward.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, that's all we I bet we could go on this for 5 more hours, I guarantee it.
Yes.
That's all we have time for today.
Awesome.
But yes, Danica, tell them how they can find you, where people can, connect with you, and yeah, how they can find you.
Yeah, pretty easy. So I am DIY Adventurer on Twitter and on Instagram. And on LinkedIn, I'm the first Danica Jones that will probably pop up. And you can also Google me. I'm rather Googleable, and danicajones.com for my website. So
Mhm.
I'm everywhere, all over the internet, have been for 20 plus years. So you can definitely Google me if you can't remember the handles, and I'll see y'all out on the internet.
Thank you so much. Yes, Danica, thank
Yeah,
you so much for being on the webinar, and thank you for everyone that
yeah,
was listening in. This is the Marketing Perspective podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, guys.
it's a pleasure.